Yeah, this business did not start by design. It started by accident. I was curious about a certain element that was going on, and it was in the electronics industry. And I decided that there was quite a market out there for teaching people how to solder. Employed in Canada was over 600,000 people doing soldering. At least that's what I was told. When I got out into the electronics plants, both in Canada and the United States, I found out that it was about 100,000 people doing soldering and 500,000 doing the soldering process over again to make it look the way the standards depict that it's supposed to be. So I tracked down these standards, and they actually come from the US Navy in China Lake, California. And they're made for the military, aerospace, and defense. And again, it was rather interesting to see in these industries that, quite frankly, there would be, for every one person doing the soldering process, there would be 5 or 6 reworking what the first person did. And I was curious as to why this was necessary. So I got into the metallurgy and the science and the chemistry of soldering, and I realized that it's a chemical process. And as you know, with chemical processes, you mix certain elements together to form compounds, and once they are formed, the chemical reaction is finished, and that's it. It's game over. So it occurred to me that all of this work that was being done after the chemical soldering process, it occurred to me that it was all waste, it was unnecessary. And this was all being done because somebody decided that a soldering joint should look a certain way. And so I decided to take that one on. So here we are talking about the US military, the aerospace industry, we're talking about the electronics industry. And so I designed this little exercise, and it was basically a soldering course that would teach people on the front line how to solder. The trick to it, however, was that it wasn't really the skill of soldering as much as it was about doing all the steps prior to the soldering process, so you couldn't possibly avoid getting the right outcome. And that was sort of built into the training, but I didn't tell anybody about it, because that would be in the face of the standards and in the face of the regulations and everything else. And it basically started a revolution. And I remember the day I called up Walter Light, who was the chairman of the board of Northern Telecom. This would be back about 1977. And I said, Walter, you have probably in your company about 100,000 people doing soldering, and I have not found one single person in your company that really knows how to do that job. And he just sort of took that as a real insult, and he said, well, you come over here and you talk to me, Mr. Tatham, and I'll have at my boardroom all of the experts that we have. And so I went over with a little terminal board and some soldering irons, and you can imagine us here in the boardroom of Northern Telecom and with all these executives, and I said, here's what I want you to do. Here are the tools, this is right off your assembly lines, and this is the way you do things, and this is what I want this joint to look like when you're finished. And so I gave them the task and go to work. And within 15 minutes they could see it unraveling. And what was unraveling is nobody could actually produce the outcome. They followed the process, they thought it was the process, but they couldn't produce the solder joint to look the way it was supposed to look. It really got their attention, and it became our largest customer in Canada. It was called the $1 billion process, because essentially what happened at Northern Telecom is we eliminated literally armies of people who spent their time inspecting in and reworking product to make it look a certain way. And as the electronics industry became more computerized and into integrated circuits, which were very sensitive to heat, the irony of it was, with all this rework that was being done, they were actually making the product reliability go down by trying to make solder joints look a certain way. So I got to thinking, how can we get this going right through the whole industry? How can we get people focusing on the process that gives the outcome rather than the outcome itself? And therein lies that is basically the foundation of this company. And I had a lot of fun doing that. And for 10 some odd years we were doing this soldering stuff. But that was the easy part. The hard part was getting not only the frontline people, but getting everybody in the company to think and operate the same way. And getting people to change their behavior. That was really the challenge, because people always react when a problem occurs. They react when something goes wrong. And the reaction, I found, is probably 99% wrong, in that it makes the situation worse, not better.